Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, How to Build Trust and Connection Online. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a very interactive session. It's in meeting format, so it's so nice to see all of your faces. My name is Danielle Hofer, and I am the Outreach Officer at Women's Enterprise Center, and I will be facilitating the session and introducing our panelists. I've been at Women's Enterprise Center for just about 6 years, and it's been an amazing journey to see all the supports that Women's Enterprise Center provides to entrepreneurs around BC. Now, if you are new to Zoom or you haven't been using it too much yet, there are a couple key features that I would like you to know about. We have a Q&A function, we have a chat function. So if you have a key question, please use the Q&A. And if you want to interact, use the chat. And it's really great to see that chat already happening. We've got so many different communities represented, and I really appreciate the interaction already. So I've got a great feeling about the session. Before I do a formal introduction to Women's Enterprise Center, I want to acknowledge the beautiful land that I am connected on and connecting with you on. I am from Kelowna, which is on the ancestral unceded territories of the Okanagan and Syilx people. And I invite you to take a moment to think about the land that you are on, what Indigenous land you are on, and take a moment to appreciate that. And if you don't know what land you're on, it's an easy Google search. You can type in your community, what territory, what Indigenous territory am I on? And you can learn that for yourself. And with that, I would like to tell you about Women's Enterprise Center. So we are a not-for-profit organization that is dedicated to helping BC women start and grow businesses, because we believe that women entrepreneurs have so much potential. And the way we do this is through a business loan program. You can access up to $150,000 for new businesses, for existing businesses. If you need more money than that, then we partner with other organizations like Community Futures or BDC. We also offer professional advice and resources. These are free. These are for women based in British Columbia. And so if you have any challenges that you're facing in your business, you can come in through our client service team. We'll get to know you and your business a little bit, figure out what your needs are, and then assign you to the right advisor. And again, that's a free service we offer. We also have our whole skills training department, which is what we're doing right now. We have webinars, and a year ago we used to do in-person training, but now it's all online, and that's really allowed us to connect with even more people. So it's really been a huge opportunity. We have our mentoring programs. We actually have 5 different mentoring programs, and I won't get into all the details, but we have a combination of peer mentoring, of one-to-one mentoring. We have mentoring groups on certain topics like leadership and communication. We also have more business-focused groups. And then we have peer mentoring groups specifically for women who have received the government funding called the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. And that segues me into what that program is. So this is specialized funding that is provided from the government, where you can access up to $60,000 in a loan. It's 0% interest, and you don't have to make any payments. And if you can pay all of that back by December 31st, 2020, then there are forgivable grant portions in that. So it's a really attractive program because there's no interest, there's no principal payments, and you only have to pay back a percentage. So to figure out if you're eligible, the basic requirements are that your business was established prior to March 1st, 2020, and also that your business has been negatively impacted by COVID, And then the last piece is that you have not already received the SEBA funding from the government, because this fund is meant to fill in those gaps of people who couldn't qualify for that first program. So we are only accepting applications up to March 22nd. So you have just over a month to get in those applications. So really encourage you, if you think you'd get this program, if you'd be eligible, I'd recommend applying now. And some of the other programs and training and other services that are designed to help women entrepreneurs through this time, you can visit wec.ca/COVID-19, and there's tons of additional resources. And always you can pick up the phone if you're feeling overwhelmed, and we'll walk you through some of those services. All right, and so now on to today's session. Here's a question for you. Do you feel disconnected from your clients and team while communicating online? Is it taking longer to build a connection and establish trust with the people you interact with? If so, you're not alone. Today, we are hosting Leah Coss, founder and CEO of BBK Network, for a live online workshop to learn advanced tools and tangible skills that will build trust and connection online faster. You'll learn a few simple changes in your online communication habits that will promote incredible results for your team, students, and clients. Leah will share how to reduce Zoom fatigue for you and your team, build trust faster and more authentically with new clients or students, and increase your confidence and feel more connected when interacting with others online. This webinar is designed for those communicating online in one-to-one situations or in groups. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Leah Coss before she takes over the session. She is on a mission to change the way we value and educate people in society. And before this call even happened, Leah jumped into some of her key passions about this concept, and I could just tell that she has a lot to give, and I'm so excited to have her here. She believes that in order to prepare today's kids for a future filled with artificial intelligence, technology, and ongoing change, she has built platforms and education methodologies that will promote the development of essential human skill development in children and youth. And Leah also gives back as a Women's Enterprise Center mentor. So it is my absolute pleasure to turn it over to Leah Coss.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. If you're able to stop screen sharing, that would be fantastic. And then from there, I'll just kind of bounce us back and forth. So yes, my name is Leah Coss. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is going to be a bit different than perhaps a traditional presentation that you're accustomed to seeing these days on Zoom. Now, before we jump into it, I very much want this, what we're doing right now. We're using Zoom meeting, not Zoom webinar. I want this to simulate as closely as possible an interaction that you might be having with your team, with future partners and stakeholders. Perhaps you're an educator of some kind or a coach and you're doing trainings and workshops. I want this to be kind of scrappy in that way. So because of that, I want you to speak up or interrupt me if you're not interrupting, but feel welcome to jump in if you have any questions. And I know that Danielle did a quick demo of the ways that you can communicate, but we're all a little different. And so whatever is most comfortable for you, I want you to communicate in that way. And some people are super old school. I teach a lot to like 7 to 13-year-olds and they're still like raising their hand, right? And so if that's what you're comfortable with, that's totally cool. Just know that depending on what the screen is looking like, I may or may not see your hand up, but feel welcome to use the chat box. And don't feel that you have to write your whole question out in there. It could be enough to just put a question mark in there and I'll go, oh, Lindsay, you've got a question for me. What is it I can help you with? And then you can unmute yourself. Now that said, though, if it's easier to just unmute yourself, go for it and just go, hey, oh, Leah, before you get going, I prefer for you to ask the questions while we're on the topic so that you don't forget the question. It helps everyone else in the room as well, as opposed to waiting till the end. Plus, I do talk a lot, so you might not have time at the end to ask a lot of questions, depending on how long this goes till. because I work with kids, there is other ways of communicating that they love. There's emojis. It's actually called reactions in Zoom, and you can find that. It's easier to find when I stop screen sharing here, and you can add a smiley face, a heart, a thumbs up, a crying, laughing face. So kids love those things. If I don't ever mention those, they get angry at me. And then of course, there's the more professional emoji, which is like the raise hand and coffee break, otherwise known as the pee break. So feel welcome to use that. And if you do need to step away, that's totally okay. But I do recommend grabbing a pen and paper for this. This is not going to be one of those presentations where I'm going to give you a worksheet and, here's the worksheet. I need you to spend about 20 minutes on this before you have your next meeting as prep. No, that's not what this is. You're not going to have massive, this is not going to be revolutionary. Okay. I'm just going to set that bar really low for myself. What this is instead going to be is more awareness about the things that you've always done in person and how when doing it online in Zoom or Microsoft Meetings or Google Hangout or insert webinar platform here, how what you're doing that's always worked before could actually be damaging your ability to cultivate trust and to help people want to come along with you in whatever path it is you're trying to do. Could be a sales path, it could be an educator path, a coaching path. That really requires trust on the other person's end in you in order to follow along. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're really going to be looking at just shifting old habits. It's actually going to be a little bit frustrating at first because we're rewiring quite literally hundreds of years of programming of human nature in how we build trust. And it's just so much different on Zoom. When it comes to my goals for you, this is what I hope to have as an outcome. So the first thing is I want you to be able to build trust in your teams faster, but also one-on-one. I know many of you are on here because you have your own business. It used to be you could go to a women's enterprise networking event and, oh, hey, fancy meeting you here. Let me network with you, person that I can now build a relationship with. Now, if you're going to network, you've got to do it on purpose. You got to be like, oh, I guess I have to reach out to them directly and be like, can I schedule a Zoom call? And then you got to make the most of that Zoom call. And so it's just so much different. So I want to help you to be able to utilize those interactions in a way that's going to be very long-term beneficial for you and really build that trust and feeling of connection a lot sooner. I also want to help you to increase engagement and participation. We are going to talk a lot about the plague of the black screens. Right now, so many of you have your video cameras off, and that's okay. But when you're the presenter, sometimes we can become so exhausted speculating on what's happening on the other side of that webcam. It throws us off. It makes us exhausted. Meanwhile, we're judging the person as being, doing half as less work because they're not showing up. They're not putting on their webcam and being a part of the team when actually that person has been working so hard. They haven't showered in 4 days and they just don't want to be on the camera. There's so many reasons why you have your cameras off right now, and all of the reasons are okay. So we're going to talk a lot about that and help you to understand how there's alternative ways for people to engage and participate. The biggest thing, the thing that I think is going to make the biggest impact for you, though, is this thing called Zoom fatigue. So again, it could be Google Hangout fatigue, Microsoft Teams fatigue, whatever it is you're using. But when we all of a sudden, quite literally overnight, it was like you're not allowed to talk to anybody in person anymore. We switched to Zoom and all of a sudden we just felt so tired. And originally it was like, oh, it's because I'm in front of my computer all the time. But then it's like, okay, no, think about it. I've always been in front of my computer a lot. And when I'm not in front of my computer, I'm on my phone. And if I'm not on my phone, I'm kicking back, putting on Netflix and eating my dinner to relax and unwind. The blue screen, definitely, I'm never going to discount the blue screen. I really recommend getting some awesome blue blocker glasses. I have got so many, they make a really big difference. But the Zoom fatigue is not from the blue light. The Zoom fatigue is because you used to put out a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of tasks would get done in a day, and you would feel the momentum. I would feel the reciprocation from you. So if we were talking in person, I could see your head nod. I could hear you go, yeah, okay, totally. And then when I see you walk away back to your office and sit at your desk, I'm like, oh, they're doing stuff. That's awesome. I'm feeling the momentum and that my effort is being kind of validated. But now you're putting out the same amount of effort, if not more. You're getting done twice as many tasks because doing things digitally can sometimes take some extra steps that you weren't originally having to contend with before. Yet you're not feeling the same affirmation and confirmation from people. You're not feeling that momentum building in the same way. And you're over speculating about everyone that you interact with on, do they like me? Did they hear me? Are they doing what I've asked of them? And that is exhausting for the brain. What's interesting though, is it's not just you, it's your team as well are doing the same things to you, and they're burning out, but they're feeling like they're doing just as much work. So if anything, what I hope for you at the end of this presentation is that even when things go back to a place where you have the choice of meeting in person, it won't matter. You will feel equally effective in building connections online through Zoom as you did in person. And as a business owner, our businesses have exploded so much since COVID because we got our head out of our butts and realized, wow, I can connect with somebody who lives in New York the same as I can on Zoom with the people who are in the building next to me. It's all the same now. I can now expand my network, and because of that, our companies have grown so much. That's what I hope for you as well. Let's relook at how we actually connect with people and do things a little bit differently. So who am I though? Why am I bringing this to you? Why do I consider myself an expert? I don't. What I do consider myself is someone who has a lot of hours under my belt way before COVID, where I had to build relationships without relying on visually seeing people. So to really age myself, I didn't send my first email till college. And then when I got my first job at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, there was no such thing as webcams. We barely had the ability to take a photo on our flip phones. So it was very much not anywhere in the realm of what we did. And I used to have to sell these 1-800-GOT-JUNK franchises all across North America, which meant I'd have to talk to somebody in Jacksonville, Florida at 23 years old, and they were probably like in their 30s or 40s, and be like, hey, like, you should totally quit your job and give us a couple $100,000 and like buy this franchise. It'll be fun, you know? Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, you'll probably have to take your kids out of school and move them to a different district because we don't have a franchise available for you over there. And you know, it's sales. It's asking people to see the path that I want to lay out and then trust me enough to go along that path with me. And I had to close those sales in about 2 weeks' time. And that really helped me to hone these alternative skills to gauge whether somebody is trusting me just through their voice, through their participation. Are they doing what it is I've asked them to do along the way? When I hear their voice, are they asking questions, or are they just answering everything that I ask them with a downward tone or an upward tone? You know, you start to hone these other skills. Now, COVID hit, and our companies, we work with kids ages 7 to 13. You think it's tough keeping people captivated as adults. Try a 7-year-old who has every distraction in their room at their disposal. It was herding cats in the beginning. But we not only had to really start to document what's working and what's not working when we communicate with these kids, but we had to document it in a way that we could then train our other facilitators to be just as effective. It's that curriculum that I'm bringing to you in a very condensed way on this seminar, and Canadian Red Cross is sponsoring this Canadian-wide speaking tour to really help you do what you need to do so much more effectively in a way that energizes you as opposed to depletes you. So let's jump in to some of these actual tangible skills. And I like to start just a smidgen backwards. And I like to start with some bonus tips first. And this is really to set the tone of what it is you're taking on every time we run one of these meetings. I'm really fortunate. I've got Netta and Danielle on here to back me up, to help look at the chat and look at the waiting room and all that kind of stuff, right? But a lot of these, I'm on my own. And so I am a one-man production crew. I have to make sure my microphone is working, my camera is working. At this stage, my mic has conked out so many times during these overviews. I have a backup plan now. I have to make sure there's nothing squirrely in my background that's going to be, you know, something that you shouldn't see in view. I got to make sure that I'm energized and delivering good content. Oh, but you know what? Someone typed in the chat. Somebody's in the waiting room. The internet connection is a little slow today. All these things are out of my control. And the ones that are in my control are things that I'm just not accustomed to having to do. So I just really want to express to you which is also simultaneously taking some of the pressure off of me, is go easy on yourself. Your presentations, your meetings, your one-to-ones, your coaching, it may not go to plan. There's just too many things that you don't have control of, from your software to your hardware to the internet connection that you're using, but also what everybody else has got. They've got their own internet connection, their own software, their own hardware. So don't strive for perfection, laugh at yourself, and just really embrace the fact we have more scapegoats than ever before. When things conk out, I'm like, man, Zoom must have done an update, duh. You know, just blame it on whatever you want, have fun with it. No, it's not going to go to plan. And that's really going to humanize yourself to your audience, because, you know, we're all going through the exact same thing. So what's so interesting is this seminar is about how to build trust and connection online. But how to build trust and connection has always been a big thing. We would go to seminars about how to do that. How do you know, what's a good handshake? Look them in the eye. You know, don't fidget, be aware of your ums and your ahs and all this kind of stuff. So it's always been a big topic. The thing is pretty much everything that we were taught is completely obsolete in Zoom, right? So how do we gauge trust? Well, if I was going to go and buy a used car and the salesperson wouldn't look me in the eye, they're always looking over my shoulder, they're looking up, they're looking down, I'm not buying the car. It's a lemon, right? It doesn't matter if it's a great car or not a great car. That person is just not building a connection with me. Handshakes. I hate to say it, I used to judge handshakes all the time. Oh, that's so limp. They must not be very confident. Oh, it's too hard. They're obviously overcompensating for something, right? We're analyzing. Verbal communication. If someone is just staring at me, I always like to relate it to like Dwight from The Office. If anybody watches The Office, that deadpan look, and you're like, hi, are you listening to me? What's happening, right? I'm looking for that, that head nod, that engagement. Energy, fidgeting. You sit down at Starbucks, you meet with somebody, and all of a sudden the table starts vibrating because their knee is going a mile a minute. It's like, whoa, you're going to spill our coffees over. They're fidgeting, they're nervous. I can read that. Posture, skin tone, eyes. If somebody were to come into my office before and they had kind of pale green or yellow-like skin and their eyes were bloodshot, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's not feeling well. Maybe someone comes running to me for a meeting and they're a little bit of perspiration and they're breathing a little heavy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did you just run from the parkade to here because you were running a little late? Ooh, don't worry about it. Take a breath, grab a coffee, sit down. We'll get started in a minute. You're good. You're good. I can put them at ease because I can sense where they're at. The thing is every single thing that I just mentioned on here is no longer applicable. It's impossible to make two-way eye contact. I can't shake your hand. All of you could be saying or this chick is crazy. I cannot hear any of that from you because you're all on mute. So I'm not getting any ongoing confirmation from you. Fidgeting, your knees could be going a mile a minute under the table, or you could be sitting cross-legged. So your posture, I have no idea what it actually is. Are you leaning back, leaning forward? Lucky for me, Zoom gives a great filter and non-HD quality. So my skin always looks flawless, but I'm losing that ability on a subconscious level to gauge how somebody is feeling. What this is going to be, these tips are going to be for you going forward is really addressing a lot of those things that are in our subconscious. We do automatically. And eye contact is one of the greatest ones because right now, if I needed to build connection with somebody and I was talking to Cheryl, I'd be looking at Cheryl going, Cheryl's not even paying attention to me. Does Cheryl like me? Does she not like me? What's happening over there? I have no idea, right? Meanwhile, Cheryl is, she's there. She's listening to me. But you know what? She had her baby, it puked on her shirt right before we got started and she doesn't want to be on the camera. She didn't have time to change. There could be so many reasons why Cheryl has her camera off. But I'm sitting here feeding, going, nobody loves me in this room. Everything that I'm doing is for nothing. And that is exhausting. So really, when we go through this, one of the first things that I'm going to bring up, I just want you to know is something that you only have to contend with in the beginning, because over time with practice, you will reprogram your brain to receive that feeling of acceptance, of people trusting you, that what you're doing is being effective. You will be reprogrammed in a way that your brain is now looking for other tells, not those traditional ones that we've grown accustomed to. Okay, so this is about reprogramming habits, not about completely throwing your world upside down and doing things differently with different processes and what have you. This is really affecting the human nature side of things. All right, so the first thing I mentioned is temporary, but you need to make a choice before all of your meetings. Are you going to place their comfort, their ability to build trust and connection with you as the primary focus, as the highest priority? Or are you going to prioritize your need to build trust with them, their desire, or your ability to feel like you can trust them and connect with them? That is a choice in the beginning because your brain is not programmed otherwise. Now, how I like to put this though, is you may as well choose them to prioritize over yourself. And the reason being, which it will become more and more realized as we go through this presentation, what you're seeking from them to build that trust and connection, you will never get. Not in this tiny little window that I have of you. I'm just not going to get it. So let's do a quick demo here. And I see something. Oh, Cheryl's awesome. Good. Cheryl validated Cheryl in the chat. So yes. And you will notice I kind of pull people's names out. I'm not meaning to pick on you. I'm just trying to use very relevant to this meeting as an example. So if you could do me a quick favor for this demonstration, can you look at your top right-hand side of your screen and it will say view? Click on that and go to speaker view instead of gallery view if you're not already there. Or there might be spotlight view or something like that. Probably the biggest one that's going to give you the most amount of relief, but also for the other person build the most amount of connection, is eye contact. It is impossible on Zoom or whatever platform you're using to do two-way eye contact. So for example, I am going to make eye contact with Mina. How's it going, Mina? We're talking, I'm engaging. I'm like, oh, Mina, you're awesome. And you know, Mina, though, why aren't you looking at me? Why are you not looking at me, right? I'm really trying to engage with Mina, but you know, Mina's looking at me. I think she's looking at me. She could be watching something else. I'm not really sure because her eyes are not quite meeting my eyes. And I'm now questioning in my brain, you know, over analyzing what's happening with Mina. What's interesting is Mina's also going, what are you looking at? Right? If I'm doing a group conversation, I'm circulating my eyes all over the screen. So what does this look like when I am delivering information and I'm looking all over? I'm looking where Carolyn is, looking where Veronica is, Kathy. Got two Teresas in here, looking at them both. Everybody's going, what are you doing? Are you surfing the web while you're talking to us? Like you're not building that connection. If I make the conscious decision that I want to put your comfort above mine, I'm going to look into my webcam. What's great about this when you have kids in the room is kids do behave better when they feel like they're being watched. So if I look into the webcam, I'm actually making eye contact with them, you know, 30 kids all at once. And you can now feel like I'm looking at you, but I can't see you now. So that's the irony, but it's the choice that I need to make. But there's incredible benefits from stopping and looking at their windows, or a lot of us look at our own window, right? We're looking at our own video. How's my hair? How am I coming across? Am I coming across the way I want to come across? You know, we're constantly looking around the room and we're not going to get what we're seeking. When I look into the webcam, you can now build connection, but I can also, in a callous way of putting this, not care what's happening in the windows. I'm now not over speculating how many black screens are in the room versus how many people have their video cameras on. I'm not questioning because maybe Andrea gets up to get a coffee and I'm going, where'd Andrea go? Did Andrea just literally peace out right now? What the heck happened, right? I'm not over analyzing. So you are going to relieve so much pressure from yourself. And most importantly, you're not going to ruin your flow of delivering your best self and your best content to others. Because if you're constantly having what I call like shiny object syndrome, oh, something's happened over there, something's happened over there, something's happened over there, you're never going to deliver your best content. So I just look straight into the camera. I deliver my content. Zoom is amazing because it'll flash orange on my screen. to see that Teresa's typed something into the chat, and I can go, oh, okay, when I'm done, I can look at the chat. Somebody pops into the waiting room, Zoom's amazing. It flashes a blue button on the screen. I can go, okay, I can easily let that person in. I can see it in my peripheral, but you are now really engaging with them. So you can switch back to gallery view if you like. But I just really wanted to give you that demonstration. Now, how do you retrain yourself to look at your webcam? Well, if you've ever held a baby before, babies love looking at faces. The thing is we never grow out of that. That's why on Facebook ads, they say have a face in there. People will more likely stop the scrolling if there's a person in there. It's the same thing here. So if you have a spouse or a partner, if you have a kid, if you have a pet, if you have a celebrity crush, whatever, it all works. If you have none of the above, make a Post-it note. Stick that right behind your webcam. That's going to be that trigger to remind you to stare at that face instead. And then over time, now I don't even want to look at the screen. I don't want to go into analysis paralysis and question whether you are liking me or not liking me or accepting me. I want to just deliver my best self. And I can only do that if I stay focused looking in the webcam. I like to equate this to when I used to speak in person. Often public speakers get really frustrated with the people who all of a sudden start going on their cell phones halfway through the event. And you're like, really? I mean, the person could be taking notes on their cell phone or looking up a link based on something that you said in your presentation. It could be a compliment, but we're just getting irritated going, come on, guys, we said turn your phones on vibrate, put them away, pay attention to me. But that's just a lost cause. You're struggling to control other people and you'll never be able to control others. I can't control whether someone puts on their camera or not puts on their camera. So I'm just going to relieve all of that. I'm going to give my best self. And that's going to be the best way to bring people into the loop. And like I said, we're going to talk more about the black screen because I know that it really can be bothersome to some. But there's too many situations. If COVID has taught us anything, too many things happening in everyone's lives. You just don't know. Best not to speculate, because it could be that people are working twice as hard, not twice as less, by having their cameras off, and that's okay. So let's jump into our next point here. And I'll also just mention here, if you want to jump in with any specific question. Oh, actually, you know what? I forgot to ask something. Could you do me a quick favor? In the chat, because I want to make sure that I keep this as relevant as possible, would you say that you more likely talk one-on-one or one-to-many? One-to-many being your team, a class, a group. You can put one or you can put many. And just let me know, because for the most part, everything that I go over will be transferable from one or the other, like one-to-one or one-to-many. But I like to make it as relevant as possible. So I'm going to bring up scenarios where you might go, sure, that sounds good for one-to-one, but try doing that to 30 people. Please bring up those situations. I want to make sure that I address them. So I can see a lot of people are saying both, large groups sometimes, one-to-ones for others. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Okay, totally cool, totally awesome. So if there's a specific situation that you want to bring up, because I've only used an example in one scenario or the other, please feel welcome to jump in. All right, let's move on. Much like if you went blind partway through life, your sense of hearing, taste, smell, touch, it increases. Same thing when you start looking into the camera and you stop seeking the physical validators that what you're doing is being effective. Because again, you just won't get what you're seeking by looking into their webcams. So this is going to help you to understand based on their tone, their volume. Even if they have a terrible microphone, you'll start to get more accustomed to, oh, that's a little shrill, but that's the microphone. It's not their voice, right? You'll start to really hone those skills and use other methods, such as if it's your team you're working with, I'm using their performance as a gauge of whether they're getting their work done. I'm not concerned about clocking hours with them. I want to know, did you do what you said you were going to do in the time frame you said you were going to do it? And if they do it with smiley faces in Slack, I'm going, awesome, they're engaged, they're into it. I don't need to have that validation the whole time during my team meetings through their webcam. Now, what about some really tangible tips? I will mention that a lot of the technical tips that I give you are going to be Zoom related. I've actually had conversations with Microsoft about their Microsoft Teams and how some of the limitations on there can really affect a person's ability to engage. And Google Hangout is kind of the same way, but this is specific to Zoom. And this is also specific, this first example, to one-on-one interactions. One-on-one, often when I talk about looking into the camera, one of the objections that comes up is, okay, but I kind of need to see them once in a while. I want to know what's happening in their world. Absolutely. You know, if you can see into somebody's house and you see a cat jumps up in the background, that's a great time to build some rapport. Oh my gosh, is that your cat? What's their name? Oh, I love your painting you have in the back. I don't have any paintings in the back. I need something on that wall. But you know, you could be like, oh my gosh, I love your painting. And you created some personalization to your interaction. That's important, but you still want to make sure that you don't disconnect from them or have them feel like you've disconnected from them. So here's what I suggest. When you have a one-on-one conversation in Zoom, if you maximize the Zoom window, it places your videos side by side. But if you shrink your Zoom window and you make it narrow, this is what Zoom does. They prioritize your guest in the top. And now that guest is right underneath where most webcams are. So long as you don't sit too close. If I sit too close and I look into my buddy Corey's eyes here, Corey's going, what are you looking at, Leah? Look me in the eyes, come on. But if I look at the same place, but I cheat myself backwards, it looks and appears as though I'm still making eye contact with him, but I can still see very easily in my peripheral all of what's happening in his window. I can see what his hair is like. Also, when you're talking, you're not necessarily always like, hey, so what's going on, Court? You know, you are kind of talking like this, right? And so I'm able to see what's happening in his world. But that's just a really quick technical tip. So let's go back over here. But when you're in group meetings, what can you do? Well, much like right now, I had asked all of you to switch to speaker mode. Well, I can do that on my end. So if it's a smaller group meeting, maybe there's only 5 or 6 of you in the team. And for the most part, in those meetings, people unmute themselves, right? It's more of a conversation. Keep it on gallery or take it off of gallery mode, put it on speaker mode. And now the dominant window is always the person who's talking, which is really the only person that you want to really feel connected to in that moment, right? You don't need to overanalyze what other people are doing while other people are talking. And so that's just another quick tip to help prioritize that. Just make sure though that you sit further back. If you sit right up on your camera, doesn't matter where I'm looking, I don't look like I'm looking at you. So is there any questions on eye contact? That's a really big one that comes up for a lot of people. And I want to make sure that there's, you know, sometimes people are comfortable with it. It makes sense. Other people are like, I'm not liking this.
I have a question.
Yeah, you bet.
And it's more about background. So I'm wondering if there's a certain element of trust that's built when that you can see the background versus what I have, which is my virtual background.
Great question. Virtual backgrounds often come up as a question. So I just want to preface this to each their own. If I told my kids in my class they couldn't use virtual backgrounds, there'd be hissy fits all over the place. So virtual backgrounds aren't terrible, but you want to make sure that they're not going to take away or be distracting. So for example, often I'll put something up and be like, see what I'm talking about here? But I can't do that with a virtual background. This all becomes virtual background. As women, many of us have hair that can be moving. That creates a bit of distraction because it's constantly trying to create around this moving thing that can look distracting. The other thing is when your hair goes like this pocket in here is actually your real background. So you want to be careful of what you're doing it and why you're doing it. Now, much like when I was in school and I would look at my teacher, I'd be like, whoa, there's this person. He's like a thing more than a person because he's the thing with all the answers, right? But the moment that you hear that your science teacher has 2 kids, one of which is in soccer with me, and I don't know, he sprained his ankle on the weekend rock climbing, you're like, whoa, you're a human. You're like a person. You're like real now. The illusion's been broken. And that can really make people feel like, I know you better, right? The moment, if I meet the CEO of a company that I'm intimidated to meet, the moment I learn more about them that makes them human, I feel connected with them. Same thing with you. You're the CEOs of your company. Don't be intimidating in this kind of thing that people look at with intimidation, but be that human. And so being able to see all these books in the back of Emma's background, I'm like, oh my gosh, she loves books. This is incredible. I feel like I know a little bit about her. I could probably have a bit of a conversation about that, right? So never worry about having personal things. I mean, frankly, I could have laundry in the background and you'd be like, whoa, you're working hard, huh? It's like, yeah, I got chores piling up over here. Business is crazy. Like, it's okay to not have a perfect background. It's totally, totally okay. All right. So let's jump in. I see something's popped in there. I'm just going to go on to my next slide and I'll take a look at what just popped into the Slack there. So this, oops, did I? Oh, screen sharing time. Huh. All right. This is a really big one. This actually Danielle and I were talking about right before we got on. She's like, oh, this is going to be disruptive. Screen sharing time. Has anyone ever gone to a networking event or a speaking event? You show up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's only 3 people here. Now I can't leave because they're going to notice if I leave, but I feel like I should leave because clearly nobody else found the value in this presentation. And now I'm like committed for an hour. If you're screen sharing the whole time, it feels like you're in a party with only 4 other people in the room. You lose a lot of the energy. You lose a lot of the connection. You lose a lot of that automatic subconscious validation that, oh yeah, I'm here. And you know what? Check this out. There's, oh my gosh, all these people in the room, even though they're black screens, there's a lot of people in the room. I feel validated. I'm not the only person who thought this would be a good event to come to. It automatically changes the energy of the room. So try not to over screen share. It also can become dependent, right? Where you're just like really focusing on your screens. You'd actually be better off never sharing a screen, me delivering into my webcam, but I could see my screens, right? Just not even look at this Zoom window. I could have my screens on and just talk to the camera and you wouldn't know the difference. But now at least you're constantly seeing, oh, there's a lot of other people around the room. The other benefit of going back and forth though, is if we're honest, for all we know, Michelle is in her house right now doing squats. She's like, if I'm gonna have to listen to this, I'm gonna get some workout in too. She's still listening. But every time I switch my screen back and forth, Michelle's doing a squat and then my screen goes from light to dark. She's like, something changed on the screen. Oh, okay, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, cool, that's good, awesome. And then she goes back and then it's, oh wait, something changed on the screen again. It's kind of helping, like if you're just going from, if I went and I screen shared the whole time and I'm just going, you know, from this slide to this slide, there's no change that's really happened, right? People aren't refocusing on what you're doing. So change it up. Get off of the screen share. Let people see there's a party in this room, have that validation, create that energy and connection. And for you, it's also probably going to be a little bit more entertaining because now you can also be reminded, oh, it's not just 4 people who came and, you know, showed up. There's 35 people in this room. This is amazing. All right. This is probably my favorite slide, but I want to make sure that I don't miss what was in the chat. That sounds exhausting. You know what, the squats or the switching back and forth screens, Michelle? Let's see. Important to remember the background is a screen, not a shield. Things can happen in the background that appear on your screen when you think they won't. I once saw a naked person walk around in the background. So awkward. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely things that can happen, but you know, all we can do is laugh about it. That's kind of what can be so great. When would that ever happen in an office, right? Talk about the human factor. Yeah, all we can do is laugh at it, but good awareness point for sure. All right. So let's take a look at this next one. Their perception of you is now the reality you have to overcome. Meaning if you give off unintentionally an impression of not caring, not showing up, not being engaged, you may not intend that, but you could be doing things that's giving them that feeling that you are. So I want to preface this because this is actually a local gal, incredible company. She is a hard worker. And there's a Canadian program where she did awesome interviews with incredible CEOs. And they were awesome. I like watched so many of them. The thing was, and this is of course, keeping in mind, this knowledge that I'm sharing with you, nobody's really taken a moment to consider this. We had to transition to online overnight. And in every screen, this was how she was. Now, when you look at these two people in these frames, the perception of what you are giving off is confined to this box. Now, for all we know, over here, she could be wearing her nicest blouse and be sitting up and really be engaged, using her hands to talk. We have no idea. And now it's created a seed of doubt in our mind that, is she slouching? Does she really care about what's happening here? She's what I call the talking head. So where are you in your frame when you're talking with clients? Every time I do this, I see people sit differently. So Danielle immediately sat backwards. So yeah, it really is becoming aware of people can only see what's in your window. Now, what was great about this screenshot is this person over here is in actually public relations. And you can tell because she's got herself in frame. She's used to doing interviews. And there is something to be said about, I can't see your hands. I don't trust you. I can't see your hands. That's where the whole handshake came from, right? I'm not carrying a gun, shake my hand and, we're kosher. She's got her hands in frame and it appears that she's leaning in. You feel like she is paying attention. While over here, she's definitely paying attention. Like I said, she's a rock star, but the impression that she gives can be deceiving. So how are you coming across in your frame? I myself actually use a separate webcam that deliberately zooms me out because this is actually what my integrated webcam is. Very much closer, right? And what's interesting about this is, and let me, just so I don't keep shaming her on my screen here, if I were to say, for example, Susan started talking and I wanted to give Susan a thumbs up. Oh, that's awesome, Susan. So good, I love it. Now I'd be on mute though, so she can't hear me saying, so good, I love it. It'd just be like blank. Meanwhile, I feel like I'm giving off all of this energy, giving her a thumbs up, but she can't see them because they're out of frame. They're just right down here. They're right here, right? But she can't tell. So you might be feeling like, gosh, why don't they feel like I appreciate them the way that I'm trying to appreciate them? And it's because what you're doing is out of frame. There's so many examples of that. That's why I like this, because now if I give the thumbs up, at least it's kind of in frame, right? But I'm going to be extra deliberate. And we're going to talk more about helping other people feel that affirmation. But if it's not in frame, it doesn't exist. So here's another great example of something you might be doing. If we all met at Starbucks and we sat down and you started talking and I'm your coach and I start taking notes, you're going, wow, I love it. They're really paying attention. I feel heard. They're taking notes. But on Zoom, here's what taking notes looks like. And that looks like I'm getting text messages. I'm on my phone. Now they might want to give me the benefit of the doubt and be like, you know what, every time I meet with Leah in person, she used to always take notes. She's probably taking notes. But maybe she's just really busy. Did something happen? Are her kids okay? Did something happen to her dog? Why is she really paying attention? You've created enough of that seed of doubt that they're now exhausting their brain, going into overdrive, speculating on what you actually are doing. Another thing is maybe you take notes on your computer, and this is what notes on your computer looks like. And plus probably the clicking that they have to listen to as well, right? But me taking notes on my computer looks like I've started surfing the web. Looks like I'm checking my emails while you're trying to pour your soul out to me. So let me switch back to these cameras because I can't stand that camera. There we go. So if I am wanting to do anything like that, over communication is always your best bet. You will never go wrong with over communication. If I want to start taking notes, there's a few things that I'll do. I will literally say a one-liner. This is great. You know what, Emma, I'm just going to take some notes. That's it. Emma's now completely satisfied. Her brain has stopped the cycle of questioning and doubting me and worrying that I just don't care. What I also do is the whole I can see your hand situation. This is my resting position. I've got a pen in my hand. So when my hand goes down, they're never wondering if actually what happened was I grabbed my cell phone. It's all of those subconscious cues that's going to help make or break whether you're building trust with others. If I want to take notes on my computer, or this really happens because oh my gosh, she just gave me the most brilliant idea, I've got to share this link with you. I'll say, oh my gosh, there's this website I got to show you. Keep going. I got to find this link for you. I put them at ease that I haven't started surfing the web. Oh my gosh, there's this book. I'm going to start looking over here. It takes me out of frame, but I can still hear you. I'm just grabbing this book. Keep going. Over communicate. Over communication is always your best bet. All right. So we've got some questions in here. Zoom judgments and behavior. Yes. And we will definitely talk more about what could be happening in these Zooms, because there is Zoom judgment, but there really is also just so many reasons to not want to be on camera. This could be, I actually am doing 3 of these keynotes today, right? What if this was your 3rd back-to-back meeting and you were like, I'm just tired. I want to put my feet up. I want to sit in a way that would normally come across as disrespectful. So instead, I just want to put my camera off. I want to take this ponytail out and I'm going to take my bra off. I just want to relax for a minute. There's so many reasons why we don't want to be on camera. But I do this talk a lot to university professors who are career advisors or counselors. So I do want to bring up this one point. There was a point where someone said, yeah, but we need to look at the black screen as possibly an indication that somebody is very depressed. What do we do there? Can we mandate that they turn their screens on? And what I say to that is, okay, let's say that that same person came to school that day or came into your office and they had their hair in their face and their posture was really rolled shouldered. Would you say to them, can you stand up straight so that I can see you properly? And then we'll talk about what's going on with you. That's what asking somebody who's in a state of not wanting to be seen, not wanting for you to see the state that they're in, their discomfort. That's what you mandating their camera will feel like to them, is you asking them to do something they're not comfortable with. And now you have absolutely broken trust. They will never believe that you're putting their comfort above theirs. But instead, if you log that and you go, you know what, Ivani, they always have their camera on and today they don't. So I'm not going to put Ivani on the spot and be like, can you turn on your camera for me so I gauge how you're doing over there? I'm going to instead say, Ivani, how's it going? What's going on? Anything new in life? You're going to use that as data, but you're not going to overstep and breach that trust. Webcam, this is I don't actually know what this is. It says an tube. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Logitech is a great brand though. I highly recommend anything Logitech. I got mine on Amazon back when we had to shift online and all the webcams were sold out. So I think I ended up with like a no-namer, but Logitech is always a good bet. Just checking out these things, school setting. In a school setting, is it not important to see your students at all times? Now, some of these questions will come down to insurance. So I actually had somebody who taught exercise classes and said, hey, what happens there? Should I be able to see people? That's an insurance question, because if somebody's doing exercise and you're instructing them and they get hurt, what can happen? But there are alternatives around that. So for our kids, we would say, hey guys, I get that you don't want to be on camera, but can you aim your camera so we can see your feet? Now we can at least make sure they haven't fallen over. So there are ways around that. But in school settings, if we're talking about like adults, like in college, absolutely not. If they're younger kids in school, I think that comes down to a school thing. I wouldn't be able to make a judgment on what the protocols are there, but I would mandate cameras on in the beginning of our class because we need to verify there's no adults in the room for kids' safety. Make sure that nobody's mom or dad is like sitting in. But for me, I always ask, why do we want to mandate their cameras on? And normally it's because we're prioritizing our comfort over their comfort. And that's where it comes back to that initial choice that we need to make. Whose comfort are we going to prioritize? Cool, awesome. Thanks for the tips, Val. All right, so I'm gonna move on to another thing here. How are we? We got 6 minutes. All right. Ending the meeting too fast. This one, sometimes I'll be in a group meeting and somebody else is the host and we'll end it. And we're all in this great atmosphere. So it's like a group like this. And we're all people who used to see each other in person. And so at the end of the call, when they're like, okay, we're done with the meeting, thank you so much. And I start going, oh, awesome. Megan, so good seeing you. Kathy, I'm going to send you that email. Sorry, I've been delaying on that. It's that one moment that I can actually connect with people. But in between me saying this, the host leaves the room. It is abrupt. It feels like you've been hung up on. When I was a kid, you could actually hang up on people and they would hear that, boom, you know, and then we got cell phones and we couldn't hang up on people anymore. You can hang up on them again. It's called ending your meeting too quickly. And all of the trust you have just built with people completely goes out the window and they go, oh, that was an act. Oh, they really didn't care. They couldn't wait to get off of this call. Rule of thumb, if you're the host, you should be the last one to leave the room. Let them win. There's a weird power struggle. No, I'm more important than you. I have to go first. No, you're not hanging up on me. Let them win. Let your guests win. Let them say their goodbyes to each other. Let them say their, oh, I'll catch up with you after. So good seeing you. Glad you're still alive. You know, all these things. Let them do those things. But it is within reason because some people just don't end, they don't leave. So I use the rule of thumb that within reason, once everybody has stopped their goodbyes and stuff, wait at least 5 to 10 seconds and then leave the room. But what about in the occurrence where you legit have to leave? You're like, I got a back-to-back meeting, I gotta go. Over communicate. Oh, this has been so good. I can't even tell you how thankful I am. Thank you for all being here. I have another meeting, so I have to run. I'm really, really sorry, but thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you can all connect afterwards. Bye. Over communicate. Now you have not hung up on them. You've just really communicated that I care. I gotta go though. Thank you so much. Okay, so don't ruin all the trust you built by hanging up on your people. And then just one more thing that I'll just kind of pop over here. God controls. Do they have the ability to unmute themselves? There would be a way where I could actually click mute all and take away all your controls to unmute yourself. And so when I go to ask a question, you're like, oh, she didn't really care about me answering because she's not letting me talk. Do you have the God controls turned on? Are you allowing them to actually participate? And then the mm-hms, really important. I have no idea if all of you are agreeing with me or not agreeing with me, calling me ridiculous or calling me a genius. I can make up whatever I want in my head because I can't hear any of you. So looking at your webcam is going to eliminate that. But what about one-on-one? One-on-one, you tend to not be muted. And if you've ever met with somebody in person, maybe it's your best friend, the reason you guys drive so much is because you say something and then they say something and it's just this perfect like rhythmic dance back and forth. And you're like, oh, I just love having conversations. You can't do that on Zoom because as much as this sounds instant, there's actually a half-second delay between what I've said and you receiving it. And so when I'm talking, perhaps I'm, Veronica and I are talking and Veronica's saying something and I sense her sentence is ending soon. So I jump in to say, except by the time my comes through, she's already started her second sentence. And this is the fun dance that you do. Oh, sorry, did you need to say something? No, I was just agreeing with you. Oh, okay, no question? No. Okay, where was I? I've completely thrown them off. You want to come up with a non-verbal method of giving them positive feedback. You do not want to do You want to do the bobblehead. Don't do a small nod because I could be rocking in my chair for all they know. Do an exaggerated one. Thumbs ups are good. Big expressions on your face. Don't look stoic, Figure out what your best method is to give them positive confirmation like, yeah, awesome. But without the verbal, because you will really disrupt their flow. You will actually come across as abrasive and controlling and disruptive. So those are just no problem. I see we're right at the end there. So I'll kind of just cap that off. We could talk about this stuff all day long because it's constantly progressing. You probably have some tips and tricks that you've come across that work really well for you. What I ask of you is this. You now know more, but it's going to take practice. But remember, not everyone else has taken the time to really pivot into this new method of conversation. Don't penalize people because they're not making eye contact with you. Don't penalize them because they're looking at you in a way that looks just stoic and they're just like, meanwhile, they're doing this emphatically under the table. You have no idea. Look at your webcam, relieve all speculation. Just really try to hone in those spidey senses on other ways of gauging other than visual, whether they're actually following along with what you're saying. Are they a good team player? Are they a good partner? There's so many other ways that you can judge a person's participation and enthusiasm. So thank you so much. I'll just quickly put up my contact info in case anyone would like to connect with me on LinkedIn. But Danielle, I will hand that back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Leah. I personally learned a lot, and I already have a little sticky note on my camera that has a happy face on it. So I'm looking right at the camera. I'm wondering how that is landing. So thank you so much, Leah. Before we go, I have some wrap up thoughts, and certainly we will share the contact details for Leah in the follow-up email along with the recording. And in that email, we will also share with you some upcoming sessions. So we have our financial fitness webinar series that is currently happening right now. We have the Launch Your Dream webinar series, which is specifically designed for immigrant women who are looking to start a business and leveraging those skills that they have from their home country to launch that business in Canada. We have a really exciting event to celebrate International Women's Day, which is called Connecting to Capital, and that is on March 10th. And the last one I wanted to tell you about is this session all about SEO, which is search engine optimization. So how do people find you online? And with that, I hope everyone has a moment to give us feedback. We are constantly improving our services and making sure that they align with what you're looking for. So please take 2 moments to fill out these 3 questions. So the questions are, will you be able to apply what you learned in this webinar to your business? Overall, was this webinar a positive experience? And 3, how does the webinar compare to other business training you have attended? Thank you so much. I see those coming in. I'm going to close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and poll. Thank you so much. We will keep those confidential. I won't share those results, but I'm very happy to see that people are enjoying it. So excellent. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Danielle Hofer. I am with Women's Enterprise Center. If you have any follow-up ideas of things you want to learn through this online platform or in other ways, we would love to hear from you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And I just want to say thank you everyone for the positive comments in there. You're very welcome. Remember, it takes practice. Go easy on yourself and go easy on those that you speak with. This is a learning curve for all of us. And by the time we get the hang of this communication style, we're going to have to learn how to do it through holograms or whatever the next advancement in communication is.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Leah. And I'm going to take your advice and be the last person to leave. So I will be here if you have any follow-up questions.
It's always within reason because, you know, sometimes people are grabbing a coffee while we're ending the room and they are not able to leave. Or if it's like the kids in my class, Edward and Aiden used to fight over, I'm going to be the last person in class. And it's like, no, bye. Bye, y'all. I got places. Oh. Everything's within reason, right?
Awesome. Any last questions?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, Leanne, there will be a recording, you bet.
Yeah. Oh, Mina, is that a goodbye or is that a question?
It's a goodbye.
Okay. Bye. Bye. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, I will end the call now. Thanks so much. And thanks a lot, Leah. That was great.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.